Good morning, beautiful people of the center. Because we're supposed to be growing our inner light, right? And that's what the book of the month is, Growing Your Inner Light by Lara Owen. And I brought the first slide along with me from the book. Can I have the first slide, please? Won't you read it with me? Gratitude, wonder, and acceptance are closely related states of mind and being. They all arise out of a love for life and a sense that there is a meaning and mystery to our existence. They are all strongest when we have powerful experiences that open the heart, when we let go of trying to control, and when the ego and the personality are relatively quiet and the soul speaks loudest within us. Beautiful stuff in this little book. And as I read it, thoughts spring into my mind around these words, like the word acceptance. What do I accept? And I was remembering a line from our textbook, Ernest Holmes wrote in Science of Mind textbook. He said, we should carefully consider whether we are willing to experience the result of our thoughts. In other words, what we accept into our mentality is very significant, and we ought to consider whether we want to experience what we accept. So the question is, what am I accepting in my mind? Or another way of saying it is, what am I dwelling on? And what am I granting safe passage to through my thinking? And is that growing my inner light and opening my boundaries and my borders and growing my acceptance? Or is it like a dampening effect? I was at lunch with a friend of mine, and we were just having the most wonderful conversation, talking together. And my young friend said to me, Edward, when I get a partner and when you've got a partner, we should go on a double date. And I said to him, that's not going to ever happen. And he looked at me and said, not with that mental equivalent, it won't. You see, a mental equivalent means what I've accepted as normal, what I've given safe passage to in my mind. My mental equivalent. And then that becomes the foundation for everything that I look at in my world, for everything. So if according to me it's never going to happen, then why plan for it? Why expect it? Why daydream about it? Why wonder about it? Why make room for it? He got me good. Except a few minutes later, the waitress came by, a beautiful young woman. And I said to him, how about her? And he said, oh, no, I'm not in her league. And I said, not with that mental equivalent. And we each learned something about ourselves in that moment, that we had accepted ideas that were now the foundation for all our future projections, now limited in the box of our mental equivalent. We had accepted something. And I thought about this. When control, ego, and personality are running the show, it's a different experience than when they are relatively quiet, because when that is all quiet, then we can approach this life with awe and wonder and adventure and exploration, and that increases our acceptance of a greater yet to be. Like my cat Andrew, for whom everything is an adventure, who accepts everything as an opportunity. He does not let past failures, size, religion, gender, species get in the way of trying new things. Everything is just fascinating to him until it stops being fascinating, then he moves on. So a friend of mine surprised me on Friday and brought me a Christmas tree, and I haven't had a Christmas tree in my home for the longest time. I'm always too busy doing church stuff, So it was very exciting. I put the tree up in my house and got out all those treasured antique Christmas ornaments and spent the whole night, right until 1 a.m., making it just perfect with the lights. It was just so lovely. And then on Saturday morning, I heard the sound of crashing, breaking antique glass ornaments and the sound of water thrashing about on hardwood bare floors. Apparently, Andrew was sitting there for the longest time thinking, I can climb this. It's an adventure. I'm going to do it. right? And I thought when I saw this mess, I thought of that Ernest Holmes quote, we should carefully consider if we are willing to experience the result of your thoughts. Was right in that moment, my mind was fast and hot and furious, and I think I wanted to kill him. I might have had that thought, I don't know. And then I remembered a friend once helped me in a situation where I was experiencing something like that, when things were all going wrong, one of those moments where it's just all intense and wrong. And he said to me, my friend, look, if it's going to be funny later, why is it not funny now? And so I learned something from that, and sometimes I can do it. I can use my imagination to just fast forward and try to see myself retelling the story and from that humorous perspective. And sometimes I can do that, Not always, because sometimes the stakes seem so high to me, but sometimes I can. I'll tell you what I've learned from it. I've learned that things, reality, the world, is not trapped in my description of it. My description of reality is where the limitation is, not in the thing itself. It's been a terrific learning. Cats and children, they have a sense of awe and wonder and exploration. It makes me think of the Robert Viljoen story when he recounts going to kindergarten, where you can ask children, can you dance? Can you sing? Can you speak a secret language? Can you climb a Christmas tree? And they say, yes, right? But you ask the same question in college, and oftentimes the answer is different. It'll be, no, I can't sing, or I can only dance to certain music, or I can't tell a story, I get it wrong, I stumble over, or I get embarrassed. Somewhere along the line, a change occurs. And so the question emerges, what makes the child different to the adult? Pablo Casals explains it like this. He says, the child must know that he or she is a miracle, and that since the beginning of the world there hasn't been, and until the end of the world there will not be, another child like him or her. Yet by the time we get to college, some of us have unlearned that, learned to temper, tone down our imagination, put restraints on what has been created in us, and sometimes we even begin to live our lives governed by a nervousness, a fear, and the goal shifts, and now it's not climb the tree, it's more like fit in. Don't make a mess. Don't make a fool of yourself. Stop climbing trees. I recently took an introductory conversation Spanish class at the San Rosa JC. It was really wonderful. And then for the graduation night, the students, we all went to a Mexican restaurant where we were to order our meal in our newly acquired language skills. So when the waitress came to me and asked me what I wanted in Spanish, I understood perfectly what she said, but I had the effect of being terrified in the moment and just stared at her like this. Because I realized I did not want to get it wrong, and I felt nervous. Deer in the headlamps. Now, cats and children don't seem to care about that sort of thing. Getting it wrong, looking awkward, until they learn to. They have to be taught. So today, and also on Tuesday night at our candle lighting ceremony, we are being invited to consider that creative spirit that is the child in us is still there. And to let that sense of innocence and wonder be born into fullness again. To me it's there. It calls us. It's calling us. It's the voice that says, be interested in life. Try. Imagine. There's so much possibility in you. You're unique. And even sometimes it says that stuff to us without it understanding whether it's a practical application or suggestion or whether it's possible or impossible. It still calls us forward. Climb up the tree. But don't get me wrong. The inner adult is just as important as the inner carefree child. I mean, it's very important to have common sense and planning and inquiry and logic. You know, there are reasons we don't climb Christmas trees. The problem is that life just won't cooperate and be logical. It just won't. It won't show up in an understandable, clear, predictable way. It refuses. Early on in my studies of the teachings at the Center for Spiritual Living, I came across this phrase in the textbook that had the same effect of rendering me speechless and mouth open, like in the Mexican restaurant. When I read these lines, what person, who, can explain why they live? Nobody had ever asked me. I mean, I had studied in biology and learned a little bit about the how, but not the why. And in fact, most of the how left me with the same realization. It's a beautiful mystery. And it's a mystery that is here for us to embrace and accept and celebrate and explore and get into. Because, you know, eventually, if we are alive, and we are, eventually you and I are going to encounter something that stretches us beyond our conceived limitations into that mystery. It's going to happen. I mean, if you are paying just the littlest bit of attention to life, you are going to encounter something that will stop you in your tracks and cause you to be awestruck. And I think we need that sense of being stopped by awe. I think it's exactly what carries us to the other side of our self-imposed limitations. I think this idea of encountering that which is larger than us, ourselves, is what helps us realize that we can make it through this world. You know, we need to be filled up with a sense of, oh my God, so that we can remember that life isn't boring, that it's amazing all of the time. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be the most colorful sunset that awes us. It doesn't have to be the largest building or the biggest sculpture that amazes us. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful human being that entrances us. It doesn't have to be biggest, most expensive. No, because wonder is available in ordinary, simple things all of the time, because wonder is an attitude of mind that understands that just below the surface of that which appears to be ordinary is something extraordinary. Oh, to really look at life, or to really listen to a person, or to a poem, or to a song, or to really feel what another person might be experiencing, is to open a world in which we see in the ordinary is this festival of awesomeness all of the time, just waiting to be experienced. Whether it's in our professional life or our private life or in a quiet moment in a park, there is this opportunity, this invitation into the mystery. In the textbook, and it's on the next slide if I can have it, won't you read it with me? We know by intuition that there is something beyond what we have so far consciously experienced in this world. Poets have sung of it, and there are moments in all of our lives when the veil seems thin between, and we almost enter into the heavenly state. Well, what is there to be awestruck by in this world? Well, you've got to look for the miracles. And so I gathered some wise words from wise people to help point us in the direction. The first one is from S. Parks Cadden, who says, "We can see 1,000 miracles around us every day. What is more supernatural than an egg yolk turning into a chicken?" Right? Or Walt Whitman, "To me, every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space is a miracle." Or C.S. Lewis, "Miracles are a retelling in small letters of the very same story which is written across the whole world in letters too big and large for some of us to see." How about that? Or Albert Einstein, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle." You just got to look around at your life with a questioning mind. Just look at where you are with questions. Like, for example, right where we are right now, what did this place look like 100 years ago? What was here in this spot on the earth when Lao Tzu was walking on the planet? Or think about your family. My great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, what was her maiden name? And how did it come to pass that she responded to birthing that which would become my lineage? Or how do you know how to breathe? How is it that you know how to produce earwax? My God, it's a miracle. Do you realize that we are floating through time and space as these living, breathing miracles of creation, that you and I are highly unlikely and improbable events? Miracles of creation, and which reminds me that we just don't need a lot to practice being wonder-filled. It's everywhere, every cubic inch, and when we do practice being wonder-filled, it stimulates gratitude naturally. The gratitude just rises up, and gratitude is the practice that helps shift our attention from what is wrong back towards the mystery. That's what it does. And the best way to activate it is to start saying thank you a lot. Like Oprah Winfrey said, that when she goes into her garden, she even says, "Thank you, trees. Don't waste any opportunities." Say thank you a lot, because doing so is the training wheels that prepare us for the next level of gratitude practice, because there is a level, a form of gratitude that is more like wonder and respect and awe and acceptance. It's the level of gratitude where we get the wisdom of being able to take in all of life without bitterness, without rejection. And we can see the power and the majesty even in those things that are very difficult. It's the next level, and we get there. It's an attitude of life that we get to by practicing on the easy stuff first. On the next slide, if you will read it with me, we feel grateful when we are in touch with the wonders of life. We can accept our lives, our age, and our nature. We can accept who and what we love and who and what loves us. We can accept our natural spirituality and stop trying to force ourselves onto paths that don't suit us. By experiencing this generosity towards ourselves and the unique patterns of our lives, we can accept others for who they are, and even beyond that, to love them for exactly what they are. I like to read a lot of blogs, and there is this one blog that is no longer being written. The pseudonym of the writer is Victor Gray. He's the life and times of a barista in an airport bar in Barcelona. And he talks about honesty and how the honesty of our conditions, human conditions, is what he loves. He writes, I love the look in people's eyes when they realize that they are in love. I love the way people look when they first wake up and they've forgotten their surroundings. I love the gasp people take when their favorite character dies. I love when people close their eyes and drift to somewhere in the clouds. I fall in love with people and their honest moments all the time. I fall in love with their breakdowns and their smeared makeup and their daydreams. Honesty is just too beautiful to ever put into words. And then the next slide, together. Acceptance of the whole play of life, the struggles and challenges, as well as the peaceful moments and loving connections, is a large part of developing a functional, useful wisdom. As life stretches us and pulls us out of our limitations and into a larger vision of ourselves, we find ourselves broadening, deepening, and stretching. We find the depth to accept the things we don't like, even when they appear to hamper our process. Which reminds me of Marcel Proust, who said, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And so we are being invited today and tomorrow, Tuesday night, to approach this world with new eyes, new ears, and a wide open heart, to meet everything with gratitude and wonder and acceptance, as if we were supposed to be here. As if there was no mistake in your existence.